Today we're covering all the PRISMVERSE Clash specializations. We will talk about how they work, how do you obtain them, and I'll give you some tips and tricks for them. Now let's say you picked Mayfly. So if you pick Mayfly, you will get injections as a first slot guaranteed. You will get to choose 4 perks: Nurture Injection, Judgment Injection, Speed Injection, and Elysium Injection. The first slot here is level 5. It's guaranteed to get it. I highly advise you to not pick anything until you reach level 15. Once you reach level 10, you'll be able to select the second perk here. Once you reach level 15, you'll be able to select the third perk. And I highly advise you to choose second and third perk before you choose the injection. Why? Because you can get duplicate injections if you already picked the first perk. That is just because you will not get duplicates when you don't pick perks, meaning you cannot roll them until you pick them. That's why you want to choose the second and third perks before choosing the first slot. If you are Rosetta faction, then instead of injections, you will get drones here. Basically the roles are swapped and the guaranteed perks will be just different. However, if you are playing as Mayfly, you can still get Rosetta Perks on second slot here and third slot, or level 10 and 15. You can see how there's an icon over here, and this means that you will just get to choose 4 perks for that specific faction. And if you did get a drone here on the second slot, for example, then you will get only 1 drone perk, not 4, because it's random. Now in level 20 you will get Lightning Gene. Just do the same thing. First, keep this and do not pick this perk until you level up to level 40. Then you want to pick the 5th, 6th, 7th. Once you do all of that, then you can choose the Gene perk over here. And same goes for level 40. Once you reach level 40, make sure you get to level 50 first. Pick your 9th and 10th perk. Once you do all of that, then you can pick the Gene Fabric, so you don't get duplicates. Same applies with Rosetta, and you can see that I have a speedy module here. These basically appear in the same pool table as the genes. Everything is listed in my sheet. I will provide this in the pinned comments and description. Just click on the link and here you can see what levels you can get the perk on. Obviously level 5 is guaranteed for Rosetta, so the 4 drones you'll be able to select them, but they will still appear in level 10 and 15 as duplicates if you choose the perk right away on first slot. And the modules appear in level 20, 25, 30, 35. These are all the modules. Now there's only 4 modules. The only reason why there's so many over here is because you can put 4 modules on each drone and there's multiple variations that you can get. So in total that's about 16 drones. And then the last 4 drone modules is the armor module, load module, healing module. You can see they appear on level 40, 45, and 50. Now let's make a tier list out of these new perks. Now the gathering drone is an amazing drone, but without modules it's trash. So you don't really want to pick this perk if you are not going to get the module. You can actually trade this with other people. You don't really have to pick this perk. Someone else can do it and you just need to trade with them. I'm gonna put the gathering drone into A tier though, just because you have to pick the drone. You can see that after calling, it gathers ores if nearby. If load limit is reached, the drone will stop gathering. It's not really that great without any modules. However, if we take the speedy module over here for the drone, after calling, when the player holds the gathering tool, max stamina will be increased by 50, movement speed increases by 20, and sprint speed increases by 30. And then the final hit yield during gathering increases by 200%. That is an insane module right there. And that definitely goes into the S tier. And these modules are actually expensive to craft. You have to first have the modules ready in order to craft the drone, because once you craft the drone you cannot swap out. Now we have a gathering drone unlocked on this account. Here you can change copper ingots to whatever material you want. If you notice, if you put copper ingots, it can only gather copper, sulfur, and silver ore. If you put it on beryllium, it can gather tin ores as well. If you put vanadium, it can gather stardust ores, and if you put iridium crystal, it can gather aluminum ores, and of course if you put platinum, you can gather tungsten. All you get. It doesn't increase the yield, it doesn't increase anything else, it just lets you gather more ores, or unlocks more ores you can gather with the drone. So obviously if you wanted to gather tungsten, put that. And you can actually use this drone and abuse it to get yourself tungsten and aluminum in phase 1, even though if you can't mine the ores because you don't have the tools to craft on the bench. On the second slot you just put the module, and on the third slot you put a module again. And that's how drone crafting is. Anyways, the speedy module is not just good for farming, it's good for movement speed as well. You can use this for PvE, farming, bossing, instead of swapping to the melee weapon for faster speed. you swap to the gathering tool. Now, I don't have this drone because my drone has expired. Once you craft them, you have 6 days. After 6 days, they will disappear, so you'll have to craft a new one. But you basically do this. You call the drone, you hold a solar drill or chainsaw, and other people are going to be thinking you're speed hacking or something. Now let's jump to the next one, which is the wide area module. After calling, it doubles the yield when collecting minerals and destroys all gathered items within a 3-meter radius. I'm not really sure like if the yield is doubled when you just hit a rock. If so, then that's amazing. But the problem is I never tested this. I don't have this perk. If it does that, I would put this into A tier for sure. But I still would prefer the speedy module because you're just zooming and you're saving so much time because you're running so fast while holding the tool. While this one just gives you the increased yield. Next up is the focus module. After calling when mining in contest areas, the drone has a chance to extract 10 to 100 barrels crude oil. Now I'll put this into A tier because crude oil is annoying to get. It takes time to get it. You have to wait, pumps to get you crude oil. But with this perk, you call in the drone, you go mine some stuff, and you get some crude oil. I mean, that's not bad. I'll take that. You can then basically use some other perks to convert that crude oil by literally just doing nothing, by just walking around. We'll get to that later though. Next up is the support module on gathering drone. After calling, every 30 seconds, it converts ores into ingots. This one is insane, bro. This one, you have to have it, no doubt. It's basically just converts any ore you have in your inventory without any cost. No acid, nothing. You call the drone, boom, 30 seconds, convert tungsten ores into tungsten ingots. And, that's pretty cool because in phase 1, you can actually get aluminum ingots and tungsten ingots. Next up, we're going to go to firepower drone. I'm going to put this into, I don't know really, I'll put this into A tier, but any drone, every single drone I'm going to put into A tier anyways because you can trade drones, you can give modules to other people and let them craft a drone for you. However, that's kind of inconvenient because you'll have to pay them in the end. Obviously, if not that, if you want to waste one slot, then I'll put the drone in S tier, but just because of that, you still want to have, like one slot available for some specialization perk that you might want, like these. Anyways, the firepower drone, after calling, drone will shoot nearby enemies, has mid-range capabilities, and that's it. That's all it does with no modules. And if we jump into the modules on what it does, after calling, unlocks an electric shock skill for the drone, which can dash towards enemies and within range, paralyzing them for 3 seconds. I'm gonna put this into B tier because the drone has to fly next to the player, and it's so easy to shoot down the drone. I could put this in C tier, but I'm gonna put this in B tier because sometimes the drone might come in clutch. If you're getting rushed by a shotgun or something, that might be useful to counter shotguns. However, mid-range, long range, useless. Completely useless. So this is only good for close quarter defense or whatever. And that's all I have to say, basically. Next up, we have firepower drone wide area module. After calling, drone attacks can trigger bounce effect. Yeah. Right there, buddy. Right there. Next up, we have focus module. Firepower drone. After calling, drone attacks can trigger the unstable bomber effect. Also in the D tier. These drones are probably good for PvE if you're using the bounce sniper or something. But like for PvP, that is a joke. This is not going to do anything. Mainly we're focusing on PvP here because we're playing PRISMVERSE Clash. Who cares about PvE? All dungeons are literally easy to clear anyways. Support module for the firepower drone. After calling, it unlocks a healing skill for the drone, which heals the ally with the lowest HP within range. Mistake. I found a mistake. Fixed. If a player falls and doesn't black out in 10 seconds, their fallen state will be removed. This is definitely going to go into S tier. The support module is insane. You will just get healed if you have low HP. However, if you're probably playing in a team and there's multiple people around, the drone is going to heal the lowest player, not you. Let's say you have 30% HP, but there's a player next to you that has 10%. Well, then the drone's going to heal the 10% player. Regardless of that, this module is insane. You save activators. You get to survive longer. If you take cover, boom, the drone is going to heal you. Nice. And I don't think there's a cooldown, so you'll just keep getting healed over and over. And of course, if you die and 10 seconds later, the drone's going to revive you. Next up, we have a new drone, which is the Explorer drone. After calling, replaces V-gliding with a drone, can be summoned anytime, glides horizontally with no vertical loss. Consumes a lot of stamina. Drone's HP is based off player's max HP and drone's attack of player's 50% intensity. This drone is gonna go into A tier again. Again, I'm putting all the drones into A tier. Now, this is what the exploration drone does. You basically press spacebar, and you're just flying in a straight line with no vertical loss. So this might be extremely great if you're on a base and you want to fly from a base to another base. You just literally go, you know, and you're in the base. Easy. The speedy module after calling grants the player a 15% movement speed boost and double jump ability. This, I'm gonna put this in S tier. I mean, this just unlocks so many ways into like clutching stuff, you know. You gain movement speed boost if the drone is still alive. As long as it's alive, as long as it's called in, you can hold a weapon, you'll have movement speed. You can double jump as well. So definitely is going to go into the S tier. It's good for PvE. It's good for farming. Let's say you want to jump up somewhere or you want to get out of a base in PvP. There you go, man. Summon the drone, double tap the spacebar, and you're double jumping. No need for any buffs. And you get to keep the Ice-T buff as well. So amazing. Next up, we have Wide Area Module. After calling, significantly increases horizontal gliding speed and grants 20% damage reduction while gliding. This I will put into C tier. It gives you a little bit of use. It makes you tankier while in air. But if 2 people are shooting you, you're dead regardless, bro. Damage reduction does help a little bit, but you know, to put a module just to increase 20% damage reduction while you could be putting something like stamina reduction or something, mark the target while gliding, that is way more useful than just 20% damage reduction. And you want to glide when no one's shooting you, right? Like, who does that? Anyways, now moving on to the focus module. This is gonna go into A tier, and the reason for A tier is because all you get is stamina consumption reduced by 50% every 4 seconds while gliding. Will mark random target within 20 meters. Actually, I'm gonna put this in B tier. For PvP, this might be kinda useful, but like it doesn't have that much use as any of these other modules. I'll just stick it in the B tier for now. This is useful, however, for scouting bases and going from base to base. Like if you're on the roof, you want to jump from roof to roof and you just glide. You'll get to stay in the air longer because of the stamina consumption reduced. Next up, we have support module, Explorer Drone. The player enters invisible state after leaving combat. This will go into A tier. Just because you're invisible forever. As long as you're not in combat, you're invisible forever. Which is also insane for scouting bases. It's good only for like if you were next to a territory. If you're in a compound stuck with many traps and turrets, these traps will not activate. They will basically do nothing. Obviously, we have Predator, we have the Spectral Cloak, but still the support module, you can be sprinting, jumping, you're gonna be invisible as long as you're not in combat. So it's definitely better than Spectral Cloak and Predator Whim. Next up, we have a Territory Drone. Once again, A tier. After calling, when the player is within their territory, the drone unlocks long-range capabilities, while all allied turrets and traps within the territory gain a 50% attack boost. All of these perks from all of these drones are great. You just have to have a good module, so let's take the speedy module. And the speedy module is for the territory drone is when the player's in someone else's territory, stamina consumption decreases by 30%, roll speed increases by 30%, and tactical item damage increases by 30%. This sounds insane. I know, it does. And it is actually insane. You gain, I mean, just by reading the stats, that's insane. You call in the drone, and while you raid someone else, this is just great for raiding. That's basically it. Tactical damage is C4, by the way. Any throwables like C4, grenades, Molotovs. And if you raid with C4, well then there you go. You're going to increase your damage with the C4 even furthermore. Moving on to Wide Area Module. When in territory, the drone automatically generates a spherical shield every 30 seconds, capable of absorbing damage equal to 5,000 of the drone's attack. I'm gonna put this into C tier. The drone doesn't have that much attack. It's basically gonna absorb like 30k damage points or something. Bingo is literally gonna one-tap this and the whole shield is gone or something. Or like 2 shots, 3 shots, depending on the player stats. But, and it's every 30 seconds as well. Like, I mean, it might be great if there's many players around it. Everyone would just spam drones. And there's like 10 shields or something. Yeah, that would be great. But still, I don't know. That will get broken really fast. I would rather use something else, which we'll get into later. Focus module for the territory drone. After 10 cumulative hits, the drone provides a 5% boost to weapon damage and status damage. for all allies within 15 meters for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So basically 15% weapon damage increase. I would rather use this than this freaking wide area module. Now the only problem is, does the drone have to hit it or do we have to hit it? I did not test this, but if we have to hit it, then that's not bad. But if the drone has to hit it, that might be a problem, and I might put this into B tier if that's how it works. Now lastly, we have support module. Territory drone. When the player's in their own territory, recovers 5% HP per second. If HP drops below 50%, becomes invisible. 130 seconds cooldown. So this is definitely going to go into S tier. And you will always, I think, heal 5% HP per second as long as you're in your territory. Not enemy, but your own. Someone said that it does work in enemy territory, but I didn't test it. If HP drops below 50%, it becomes invisible. This one is the 130 seconds cooldown. But yeah, that is a really awesome perk right there. Now lastly, for the drone modules, there are armor module, load module, healing module, and invisible module. They appear on 40, 45, and 50 levels. I'm gonna put them all into B tier right here. And armor module basically is when the drone has no shield, it automatically consumes 3 electronic parts every 30 seconds to gain 5,000 shield. Well, 5,000 shield is like 5,000 HP. One tap of a bingo or one tap of a vilifier and the shield is gone. And then you wait 30 seconds again. Sounds like a waste of electronic parts, bro. So I'm gonna actually put this into D tier right there. Then we have load module. Every 10 minutes, automatically consumes 5 portable mixed fuel to increase the player's max load by 100 for 10 minutes. This might be useful if you farm a lot, but like I don't see a purpose to waste fuel every 10 minutes to gain load. I'm gonna put this into C tier. Healing module, every 10 minutes automatically consumes 10 adhesive, 10 metal scraps, and 5 rubber to restore 50% durability to the lowest durability gear being worn. I'll keep this in B tier. However, if you did not know, you can go to Turnalands, boom, 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 and click here. You just use all-purpose hand, and you will repair all your gear for free for just using astral sand. So why would you use the healing module, bruh? Why would you even take the goddamn perk? And then lastly, we have invisible module. Now this one might have an actual use. I'm gonna put this in S tier. What this does is you just put this on the drone in the 3rd slot. I mean, there's nothing else to put, so I'd rather just put this than nothing. And it consumes 10 Stardust Ores to make the drone enter invisibility state for 5 minutes. The drone exits invisibility state when dealing damage though. So this is might be good only for drones like Explorer drone, like the Territory drone, because with these drones you glide, and let's say when you're gliding, the drone will be invisible. Now the hitbox is still there, so people can still shoot the drone down while it's invisible, but they just can't see it. It's fully invisible. I mean, fully. You cannot see it. You're not even half invisible. Like, it's gone. The whole model of the drone is gone. But yeah, 10 Stardust Swords though for every 5 minutes. Do you want to spend that? I mean, this might be good for mid-game to late game when you have unlocked Stardust Swords, but for early game, kind of a little bit of a waste of Stardust Swords. But definitely a perk to look out for. This could be actually an A tier, but I'll put this in S tier just because if the player doesn't know where the territory drone is, sometimes it's good to shoot out drones because it gives boosts to the territory. And if the drone's invisible, well, they won't know where to shoot. They won't even know if the player has a drone summoned. Now, since we're done with Rosetta Perks, we're now going to talk about Mayfly Perks, the injections. Starting off with the Nurture Injection. Keep in mind, drone usage and injection usage is unlimited. Only thing you have to worry about is them expiring. So after you craft it, you have a 6 days timer. So if you gather stuff, you will just get 1 coherence point stack. The more you gather, the more stacks you get. Maximum 30 stacks. And that's for Nurture Injection. Not for Judgment, not for Speed, not for Elysium. It's only for Nurture. Each injection has their own perks. These stacks will be lost after receiving damage equal to of your 70% max HP, guys. I mean, all the injections, I'm gonna put it in A tier. We have a Deviant Fragment and a 10 coherence points, mining strike speed plus 50% and mining last hit yield 100%. This works for pickaxes and drills. I'm gonna put this into S tier. Then we have Anima Fragment at 10 coherence points while holding a pickaxe or chainsaw, movement speed 15%, and the yield of logs, sulfur, silver ore, gold ore, and stardust 30%. This is also a S tier. Like if you're farming manually, your yield is gonna be giga good, giga big. You're gonna get so much. So both of these are great. Use the Deviant Fragment for farming tungsten, aluminum, all of these normal rocks, ordinary rocks, and Anima Fragment for just Stardust ore, all the rare rocks. Then we have Starlift at 30 coherence points. Consume all coherence to increase final heat yield from logging and mining by 1000% for 5 seconds. This is insane. You need this. Extremely important. Just get this. And then the Matterlift, last one we have is at 30 coherence points, there's a small chance to trigger an oil gusher when mining in contested areas, granting 30 barreled crude oil to all allied players within 5 meters. I'm gonna put this into S tier as well. I mean, this is just insane, man. But let me just teleport somewhere where I can get loads of stuff. Because for this, you do have to be in a PP zone for it to give you the oil stuff. So let's get our stacks in. Take a look at how much sulfur we got. 560 sulfur already. Take a look at how much tin ore we got. I'm gonna drop it, mine it. And we get 382, like, bro. 764. Like, it's so easy, man. Aluminum ore is 165. Iron ore is 174. 503. Like, that's just insane, man. Then we should be getting some oil. There you go. We got some oil. There you go, 30 oil again. Obtain 30 barreled crude oil. Yes. If you want some quick oil without any pumps, that's how you can do it. Mine stuff, just like that. Where's our oil though? Give me some more oil. We're not getting oil anymore. But yeah, you get the point. And now, take a look at this. My oil is disappearing because I'm converting it. I'm basically converting oil because on my top piece, I have a proliferation gene fabric. And it converts a small amount of barreled crude oil in your backpack into portable mixed fuel every 30 seconds. We'll get to that later. So, if you ask me, this is just S tier injection. It's so good, man. I would recommend you to use the mining strike speed more. Last hit yield plus 100% rather than this one actually, as it stacks with the food buffs as well. But then again, this one would be better for Stardust and this one for just tungsten and stuff. Now that we're done with the nurture injections, we are going to go to judgment injections. Now this one is not that great. What it does is, after injecting, anything you will kill will grant 1 coherence point. The stacks will be lost after you receive damage equal of your 70% max HP. Okay, this is good only for PvE, man. Let's drop this injection into B tier. Then we have the Deviant Fragment. We're going to drop it also in B tier. We have the Anima Fragment with the weapon damage. I'm also going to drop it in B tier. Then we have Starlift. At 30 coherence points, enter Beyond mode, consuming 1 coherence per attack, dealing 50 sanity damage to players, and damage equal to 10% of max HP to non-player enemies, up to 5,000. Exit Beyond mode when coherence is depleted. So you will use just basically 1 stack every shot you do until it reaches 0. Once it reaches 0, you have to restack it again by killing enemies. This is A tier for PvE though. Like you cannot use this for PvP because you have to get the 30 coherence in PRISMVERSE Clash, and in PRISMVERSE Clash you won't get 30 stacks, bro. Not even 3 stacks, because you will kill 2-3 people and you will just die. Also, when you teleport or something or log out, you're gonna lose the stacks. So this is only for PvE. Trust. Same with Matterlift. At 30 coherence points, roll stamina consumption 50%, roll speed plus 30%, damage reduction during rolling is increased to 80%, summon a flamethrower trap that deals damage equal to 1000 PSI intensity over 5 seconds. Now this one is gonna go to C tier. I don't know, it's just because, I mean, 30 coherence points, after 30 kills you'll get to do this. The thing is, you don't lose your stacks, but like every time you will roll, you will summon a flamethrower trap, I guess. But still, you don't gain much out of it. All you get is just AoE damage from that trap, and you just get a roll speed and damage reduction. That would be great for PvP, but since it's 30 coherence points, and since it's so hard to stack these points, this is kind of useless for PvP. The only viable option is for PvE. Now, let's go to speed injections. Moving for 2 seconds, or sitting in a car, after injecting by the way, will give you 1 coherence point. These stacks will be lost after receiving damage equal of your 70% max HP. So this one will go into... I will put this into A tier. I know. relax. All injections go into A tier, by the way. If you're playing as Rosetta, I don't recommend picking them. But if you're playing as Mayfly, then obviously you have no other option as choosing and wasting that one slot because it's guaranteed for you anyways. But let's get into the fragments now for the speed. So Deviant Fragment at 10 coherence points, you get to choose vertical gliding speed reduced by 70% and horizontal gliding speed increased by 50%. That is actually really great for base scouting and like flying around, or if you want to get from point A to point B. That is an S tier for that specifically. Now there's another one is Anima Fragment, recover 5% HP and sanity per second while in a car, and you will gain shield equal to 60% of your max HP when exiting driving. That is a cooldown of 30 seconds though. That is a really good perk. I'll put that in S tier, but the problem is in PvP in PRISMVERSE Clash, you don't get to use cars that much. You're mostly on land taking cover and shooting stuff. Well, of course, if you do get to use car and if you hop out in the wild to kill someone, that's great because this will save you a lot, this injection. However, it really matters on the scenario, so it's all up to you what injection you use and which one you decide to go with. Anima Fragment is good for the wild, like in events, and the Deviant Fragment is good for raiding. Next up, Starlift. At 30 coherence points, gain invisibility for 10 seconds after gliding ends. There's no cooldown, so as soon as you end gliding over and over and over, the invisibility state is refreshed over and over, so you can be permanently invisible as long as you keep gliding and stopping. I'll give this an A tier. It's not bad. Then we have Matterlift. At 30 coherence points, while in a mobile territory or truck, weapon damage 20%, status damage 20%, damage reduction 20%. I'm gonna put this into C tier. I mean, you could be using Gatling cannons while in a truck, but like that's only if you're in a truck. If you get out of it, you lose all of this, so this perk becomes useless. Could have a use, but I don't see myself using it ever. Next up, we have Elysium or Elysium injections. I don't know how you pronounce it, but after injecting, the coherence will last until you receive damage equal of your 70% max HP, and staying in territory, every 3 seconds you will get 1 coherence point stack. This goes into A tier because it's an injection, and that's about it. So let's get to the Deviant Fragments now. At 10 coherence points, you will unlock a double jump, and arrow leap works outside territory as long as 10 points are kept. So it just works everywhere. It doesn't have to be in territory. And I don't know, man, it's just not great. Not great. I will put this into C tier because you can really do that with the drone. I would rather use the drone that gives you a double jump and you get movement speed. Like, look, Explorer Drone. After calling, grants the player 15% movement speed boost, double jump ability. While this one, you have to have 10 points as well, stacked up, which means, and how do you get the points? You stay in territory every 3 seconds, which means you have to wait, how long? 30 seconds to get 10 points, bro. While with the drone, you can already call it and get that buff. Definitely goes here, C tier. Then we have Anima Fragment. At 10 coherence points, attack of allied turrets and traps within territories 50%. Again, the drone does that, so I'm just gonna put this here. We have Starlift at 30 coherence points, increasing PSI intensity by 1% per stack, but reducing attack by 0.5%. Each shot consumes 1 point of coherence. I think Elysium is the worst injection in this game, bro. I think that's literally the worst. I'm gonna put that again in C tier. It consumes 1 point. Each shot consumes 1 point. And then you have to wait 3 seconds to get 1 point again. Like, what? Then the Matterlift one is at 30 coherence points, while in the territory, stamina consumption is 30%, roll speed is plus 30%, and tactical item damage is 30%. Literally, the speedy module does the same thing, but you just don't need stacks for the drone. Like, look at this. And that is an S tier. While this one would be literally, I don't know. I'll give this a B tier because it doesn't use up your stacks. Like you just get 30 points and you already have the damage increase for tactical item, roll speed. But the problem is that you have to wait 90 seconds to get 30 stacks. By that time, you're probably dead. So Elysium is definitely the worst injection, I think. And I actually put it in A tier. I'm going to put this into, sorry, bro, C tier, right there. You sit there, boy. All together. Look at this. All together yellow, bro. Next up, we have injection genes. So what they do is you can choose a gene on any of your injection that you craft. Let me demonstrate for you. So when you craft injections, on the third slot, you can select a gene. Obviously, if you craft nurture, you want to have only proliferation gene. I don't recommend putting extreme, lightning, or bastile. Well, you can put lightning, but it would be better to put this proliferation. And actually, the funny thing is, I think the proliferation doesn't even work. What it does is it says here, a special item to enhance the gene coherence injection and unlock its advanced capabilities. After using the injection, you create a proliferation zone. Within this zone, the acquisition amount for all parts, fabrics, plastic, metal scraps, rubber, blah, blah, blah. When you loot crates or whatever, when you loot storage crates or cabinets, you gain an increased 30% for 10 seconds. I don't think this works. At this point, just craft a nurture injection without the third slot, but basically just start a source. Because there's nothing else to put in here for the nurture injection. This thing does not work. It doesn't do anything. We tested it multiple times. It did completely nothing, so that's where you belong, buddy. Right over there. Next to these focus module invite area modules, yes. Then we have extreme gene. Stacks will now be lost only when you receive 150% damage of your max HP instead of 70%. When HP is below 50%, max load plus 50. When HP is below 30%, you gain weapon damage 15% and tactical item damage 15%. When HP is below 10%, you trigger a healing effect, recovering 1% of max HP for each unused point of max load. That is a 30 seconds cooldown. So this is good for PvP, of course, and you will now lose the stacks of your stacked points. Instead of 70%, you will lose it on 150%. So that just enhances the injection by a lot, and this definitely is going to go into S tier for PvP, Extreme Gene, so you have to have that if you PvP, for sure. Next up is Lightning Gene, and while in combat, automatically selects a random enemy within 20 meters every 10 seconds, generating a lightning strike beneath them after a 3-second delay, dealing damage equal to 4000 psi intensity. Now, while this is sounding insane, this is like a B-ish or C-ish tier. It's just randomly inflicting lightning everywhere. Selects a random enemy and it's just 3 seconds, you know, until it procs. I mean, if the target is standing still, it's definitely gonna hit, but other than that, it's like RNG. I would rather have a extreme gene than lightning. Lastly, we have Bastile Gene. If you stand still for 2 seconds, you will enter Bastile status. In Bastile status, damage reduction plus 10%, weak spot damage plus 20%, and taking hits from enemies will mark them. This is really good for base defense, like if you're standing still a lot, camping the roof, you know, shooting from the roof. This is insanely good, so definitely take this gene if you're defending the base and always are on the roof, or if you're in general, if you're just doing PvP outside, taking cover and shooting one by one. In general, this doesn't have to be really base defense. It's good outside of the bases too, so. And we're done with the injection genes. That was injections, by the way. Now we're moving on to armor. This is more interesting and this is more important, actually. So we have proliferation gene fabric. Let's just get started with that. Now, if you take a look here, it says if fabric is put on top armor piece, you will gain a bonus effect. Do note that you can put gene fabrics on 6 armor pieces. If you take a look at my armor I'm wearing, I have a renegade hood here. Renegade hood, that's my PvE armor. It's 0 calibration, and scout mask, renegade gloves. You can see that there's a green marker next to durability, like top left. But if I hover my mouse on the scout top, you can see that there's a auto conversion. And if I click on this, scroll down, it says here max load 10%. And I basically just put on a proliferation gene fabric on this. And what this does is, while in the coherence status, convert a small amount of barreled crude oil in your backpack into portable mixed fuel every 30 seconds. With that, I just need to inject once. And if I have barreled crude oil in my inventory, it's going to get converted to portable mixed fuel. You basically want to put this on PvE armor, like when you do PvE or you sit in your base, nothing's happening. So I highly advise you to put proliferation gene fabric on it. If you however do PvP, obviously you want to have, on the top piece, you obviously want to put a either lightning gene fabric or extreme gene fabric. And we will get into that soon, what it does. But the proliferation gene fabric definitely is S tier, because you can AFK and turn basically oil into fuel with 0 cost. You just wait 30 seconds, which converts actually 2 oil into 1 fuel. That's really good. Now we have extreme gene fabric, and this is when coherence is terminated or when you lose the stacks, when it's fully gone. That's if you take too much damage, which is again 70% of your HP or 150% HP, whatever stats or attributes you have. Basically, once it's terminated, you become invincible for 2 seconds, but you lose weapon damage, status damage, and tactical item damage, which is not that great. You basically just become a walking dummy where you just cannot shoot back, but you're invincible for 2 seconds, which might sound like broken, but it's almost like 1 second really. So I would not put this on the top piece. I would rather put the lightning piece on the top, because we'll get into that later. But anyways, extreme jean fabric. This is gonna go to, well, I will just put this into C tier, I guess. Basically, there's more useful stuff we can utilize rather than this. By the way, this is supposed to be in here, because that is 40, 45, and 50. And this one is supposed to be here. I forgot it's 40, 45, and 50. Now let's go to the lightning jean fabric. So if you put this on the top piece, when someone attacks you, and this doesn't have to be enemies, by the way, you will, after 3 seconds delay, a lightning strike will strike the attacker, dealing 4000 psi intensity. Now, this is really good, and it's also really good for team killing your teammates, basically. You can throw a grenade on yourself, and I'm gonna show you. Look, I'm going to inject the injection. Boom, we injected. And now all I need to do is damage myself. It could be anything. Could be a Molotov, could be a grenade. We're gonna throw a Molotov on ourselves. Lightning comes out. Oh no. He died. And then I can do it again. But obviously we have a cooldown, so it's not gonna, like, you know, cooldown is 30 seconds, so we can do it again in 30 seconds. But that's what lightning does. You just spawn lightning on someone that shoots you, or if you damage yourself. Fun fact, you can even drink salt water, and if you drink too much, it's gonna damage you, and you're gonna spawn lightning on yourself. Don't do this though, please. Don't kill your own teammates doing this. This is like not intended, of course. Anyways, the lightning jean fabric isn't bad. I will put this into A tier because it could clutch sometimes. Like, let's say you're getting sniped by someone and you don't know where from and you can't find his location. Or maybe the lightning is just gonna kill the enemy for you. But yes, even if you have the lightning impulse regulator, it's not gonna save you. You're still gonna get one tapped by the lightning. So this is completely useless. This is only good for power surge or against power surge. But yeah, lightning jean fabric is A tier. And lastly, we have Bastille jean fabric. If it's put on the armor piece top, it will automatically consume 10 Stardust Swords per minute and restore 10% durability to a piece of gear with lowest durability. It's kinda, I would put this here since it has use, but like, I'd rather put this here. Like, literally, useless. I would never use that. This is the most useful perk, for sure, out of all the fabrics. So when crafting armors, what I recommend to put on your armor is on helmet, put yourself a weak spot damage reduction, which is the extreme jean fabric. As you can see, it's going to give you a 3% weak spot damage reduction if it's on the helm. And that's all you're going to get. If you put this on the pants, if you put extreme jean fabric, you can see again, we get weak spot damage reduction, 3%. Now, obviously, you can do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is going to be a total of 15% weak spot damage reduced. And if you put it on the top, well, then that's going to be another 3%. In total, you will get 18% damage reduction. But for the top piece, we don't want to put extreme jean fabric. You actually want to just put lining on it, or put the invulnerability if you want to. I would still put lining though. It's just the best. There's nothing else to choose. Lining is clutch. Keep in mind that you can put these fabrics only on tier 5 armors, and you have to craft them. You basically craft them if you only have the memetic. If you don't have the memetic, you cannot craft it. You craft it in advanced supplies workbench. Once you do, that's very expensive, by the way. All you need to do is just select it when crafting armor over here. Boom. So instead of the normal bulletproof fabrics, you gotta put in this one. Well, ladies and gents, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know down below in the comments if I missed anything. And as always, feel free to comment down below. If you have any suggestions, join my Discord as well. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace out.